know what you've come for. You can tell them the rosemary will be ready in a while. I've remembered another story, if you have a moment to listen. There was an ordinary couple who lived in an ordinary simple house. They worked very hard and they had enough to live their simple, ordinary life. No matter how hard they worked, they could never afford to buy any extra things. They worked and saved money, but whenever they had enough to buy something they really wanted, something they needed had to be replaced, something vital. It grew very tiresome, and they began to take out their frustrations on each other. Many an evening was spent with them arguing about what they really wanted and what they really needed. And so it was, one day the man was on his way to work, and there, sat on the side of the road, a peddler wrapped up tightly in his cloak, selling his wares. He had a wooden bucket, the man knew they needed one of those, and some really nice looking spoons, they were shorter spoons at home. Some rope, they needed some of that, and some thread, buttons, lots of practical things the man could have spent his money on. He stopped to have a look. Well, surely he wouldn't be able to afford it all. And then he noticed, in the middle of the peddler's tray, a beautiful knife. Its handle was intricately decorated, and it looked the perfect size. He'd wanted a new knife for a long time now. The peddler saw how the man was looking at the knife and the joy it brought to his face, and so he offered it so he could get a closer look. Oh, the feel of the knife. It was as if it was made for him. A tingle of excitement went up his arm and through his body. Its blade looked really, really sharp. It was the perfect knife. "How much?" asked the man. 20 shillings, replied the peddler. The man sighed and came to his senses. Even if he did have 20 shillings, he couldn't spend it on one knife. He put it back on the tray. He then looked properly for the first time at the peddler. He wasn't sure he'd seen anyone so, awful looking. He had one of those faces that gave the impression that he was thinking nasty, horrible thoughts. It was ugly. The peddler's expression was ugly, horrible, off-putting. The man was quite taken aback. He was breathing heavily with his mouth open and spittle running down his chin. And there was an horrible smell about him. His hands grey with dirt, his fingernails black. But, thought the man, it's his face. It's the peddler's face that makes him look truly ugly. "I could let you have it and you could pay me in a week," said the peddler, shaking the man from his thoughts, and before he knew it, the knife was back in his hand. His knife. "I could pay in a week. That suits," said the man, turning the knife over in his hand. "Yes, but it wouldn't be 20 shillings I'd require. You'd have to bring me something worth nothing. And if you haven't found something worth nothing in a week, then I will take your soul as payment." "Very good," said the man, for he was distracted and clearly thought the peddler was mad. "Something worth nothing, or my soul?" He turned the knife over once more and then went off to work. When he got home that night after work, he didn't tell his wife about his new purchase. "I'll wait until I've found something worth nothing," he thought. But that evening he couldn't think of anything worth nothing. What is worth nothing? What has no value? And what was it that the peddler had asked for? His soul? What did it mean to give up your soul? He didn't sleep very well that night, and the next morning when he awoke he was ill with worry. What could he do? He needed to think some more. He couldn't go to work. Well, that night he didn't sleep at all, and the next day he couldn't go to work. In fact, he didn't go to work all week. He didn't eat, he didn't sleep, and he didn't find something worth nothing. What had he done? All too soon, that fateful day came. The man knew it was the peddler. He fell to his knees in fear. And there on the floor he saw a feather. A feather? That was worth nothing. What do people use? And then he remembered. People use feathers for all sorts of things. Some people write with them. Oh, he scrambled across the floor, and as he did so, he noticed a piece of straw. His wife must have missed it when she was sweeping. Straw? Straw was worth nothing, surely. What? Then he remembered. There was straw in his mattress. They used straw for the animals. There was even straw on the walls of his house. He scrambled to the darkness by the open window. And there he could smell his animals, the pigs and the chickens. Poo. Dung. Dung was worth nothing. And then he remembered you use it on crops to make them grow, and in fact he could list a few things that poo was used for on his fingers. It was then that his wife came in. "What are you doing down there on the floor?" she demanded. And he had to confess it all. Whispering, he told her about the knife, the ugly man, and something worth nothing. "Leave this to me," she said. "Go on, get out. I'll deal with this. I'll call you when I'm done. Oh, but before you go, can you pass me the jug with a really narrow neck?" He did so, and as he was leaving, he noticed that she put it on that shelf he hated, the one really high up. He wasn't very tall. And his wife made ready to answer the door. "I've never seen anything so ugly," the wife thought to herself, as she looked at the wrinkled face with the sneer, a snarl almost, of the peddler, and his breath every time he breathed out. She stepped aside to let the peddler in. "I know what you've come for," she said. "Yes," said the peddler, spraying the wife with spittle. "I've come for something worth nothing, or your husband's soul." "Well, what you're looking for is in that jug on the shelf," said the wife, smiling to herself, as clearly this little old ugly man couldn't reach it. And then, to her surprise, the man straightened up. And he grew taller and taller and taller. He stretched out his arm, which grew longer and longer and longer. And then he reached in to the jug. He searched around. "It contains nothing," he said. "Yes," said the wife, "the jug contains something worth nothing." He then screamed, "Ah!" and fled from the house. And as he did so, the wife was sure she saw sticking out the back of the cloak a tail. And was that a fork at the end of it? And were his shoes really hooves? And that is the story of how a very ordinary couple escaped their brush with the devil, and they learnt to be content with what they had. Now, how much of this rosemary do you think you'll need?